you've had a cyclocross, right? This past week or so, or in the last month?
I've had several of them. I think about three at least, 3 or 4. Yeah, I think it's 4 now, actually. It's the first one. I didn't feel real strong, but still felt pretty good. Was it the second one? I felt really, really good, and had a really strong ride. And I've been experimenting a little bit. Like Peter had suggested, taking a Vespa right at the start line. See how that works. And I've felt like I've kept pretty steady effort into the whole 45 minutes. Last week, Saturday, I looked at my first lap was, of course, a little more traffic, but my second and third laps were the fastest. And then the fourth and fifth one dropped off just a little bit. But then we were strung out, so there was nobody pushing me.
Right.
But I felt good about being able to maintain that kind of effort. So
did you use a regular Vespa or a junior?
The junior.
Okay, because they both have 5 grams of carbs, but the junior has the orange juice, which gives you a little more hit than I think the the honey or whatever's in I can't remember. I think the Vespa has like honey, I think, for flavor, but the orange juice gives you a little better hit for to cover that first bit.
Yeah, I know that's what Peter was suggesting. So that's in all fairness, I often take. I don't take because I put my gels in a flask. I never take a whole gel. I mean, maybe a quarter gel or something like that. Right close to the start too. So
and that's what I do. I'd probably down a 20 gram SIS gel or something. I try and do it like right at the start, because then you don't get the hit of sugar till you're already going. And if it's only an hour, you don't really care, right? So there's no time for a crash, and so it's that timing of how the sugar gets in. So the hard part is you get stuck, right? You got to shove that stupid gel thing in your jersey, because it's like for an hour ride, you're not going to probably you don't take water bottle and take much. You don't take anything during a race, right?
Well, I've started carrying, say, a half or less water bottle, just because until it gets really cool, you still get dry mouth in the middle. And I don't drink a lot, but if I can get a swig or two, it sometimes it feels like it keeps me going.
Yeah. Do you get the time in a cyclocross to actually reach for your bottle?
There's usually a few little stretches.
Okay. The races I watch on TV, I'm like, there's no way there's time to get a water bottle out. It's like,
well, it's like the start finish line. There's usually you got about 5 seconds.
That's true. I guess you could, they have the long stretch where, I don't know if in your races, do they have a exchange to change your bikes and stuff? Because I know most people don't have more than one bike. But.
Right. We do have pits, but I've never had to use them this year at all. So, and I don't have anybody helping me. So the only time I would stop is if I had a flat tire or something. I'd try and get to the pits and grab the other one and take off,
Yep. Not
like the pros do.
Hey, Tim, I just muted you just because I was getting feedback. I'll unmute it if you got something. Oh, you have to mute yourself now. I just had feedback, so it's like.
Oh, well, your mic's got crackling really bad. Everybody else's was clear that I've heard talk so far, but.
Yeah, and all yours sound fine, so I don't know what it is. There's Peter. So you've done how many races then, Landon?
4 cyclocross, and then the weekend that I didn't have cyclocross, I had a 60-mile gravel race.
Oh, good.
So that was different. I felt really good the first half. I felt good and strong and was riding with a group of guys. The second half, we came out of the pit or support area, and we weren't together, and it seemed like everybody was going just a little different pace, and I never got with the group, so I didn't finish as strong as what I was hoping, but still pretty good effort.
That's pretty much gravel racing, right? I think you get the group in the front, you might get a second group, and then after that, it's everybody for themselves, because I think the farther back you go, you've got varying degrees of ability, and then some of those people are doing better, and then they die, and you get past them, that first group, they're all racing, and some are holding back, and some are going hard, but once you get back to about the quarter of the way through, I think I haven't been in a race yet where there's more than packs of, if I call it a pack, 2 or 3 people at the most that work together. And some of that's because I don't think a lot of those people have ever road raced or worked together in rides. Because I've said something like, hey guys, how about if we just pull like 30 seconds to a minute? Because everyone wants to take like Superman pulls.
Yeah.
And I'm going, just pull through the pace line. We got like 6 guys, just pull for like no more than a minute, pull off, and everyone gets a minute. But everyone wants a super long pull. So, but I don't think a lot of people have raced, right? I mean, they go to gravel and they haven't really raced, so they don't understand that road racing mentality of that.
No, I think that's a lot of truth to that. But hey, I see that in group rides. Even I've been doing Monday night group rides, and I felt really good, especially since I did cyclocross, 2 days before, being able to put out a good, strong effort. But I also found out when the front, we have regroup every so often, so you don't get too strung out. But I found out if you don't take off with the front, you'll never get back in the front. So you got to be ready to go and then hang on.
Yeah,
and,
that's the hard part, and that's gravel racing today. It's worse.
Yeah.
There is no like warm up in gravel race. 100 miles, they're going full bore. 150 miles, they're going full bore at the beginning.
Yeah. Fortunately, in our group
crazy.
rides, the first 15, 20 minutes are pretty mellow, and then it picks up from there. So, but yeah, in the races, yes, it's from the gun. Take off like a shot.
Yeah, if you're not there, it's just going to be a long ride because you've lost the front. You're not getting back. So good. Hey, Tim, how's your riding?
Oh, I'm getting some in. I'm just now set up Ruby again with the cooler temperatures down, and I got time in the morning, and then I work all day, and then hopefully get some more in the night. Not as much as I've been wanting to. I've been working too much trying to get some things squared away.
That's work too, right? I mean, work is work. It's like it's the danger of thinking of. I have the problem when I think of running and riding, but it's the same with work, right? So work is work, and it's a workout. So you're still getting something. It doesn't feel like the riding part, but it's still work.
I've been getting about 5 miles of walking every day in the work. A lot of times it's going down to the parts store or the hardware store a mile or so away. But it's the same work I did last year, just like at church with the rotted out foundation. This is a house with a rotted out foundation, rebuilding it, and I put a bathroom in. The guy said, "Can you put that in?" I said, "Sure." Never did one before, but I put it in. Set the pan.
It's got a rotted out foundation like most people's health today.
Yeah, just as bad. I mean, the wood was sitting right on the ground.
Yeah.
And termites. And then one wall was completely gone because their cast iron sewer pipe had cracked inside the wall, must have plugged up, and then it backed up and must have had it for a couple decades because it was piled right up between 2 studs, just backed up all the filth stuffed in the wall.
Yep.
So been having a real fun time with that. No helper this year, so just myself.
How about you, Rob? How's it going? Are you muted? I think you're muted. Yeah, you're muted. There you go.
I said, I think I've had a little bit of a, I don't know, letdown since my Pittsburgh race. I just don't feel as strong as I should, even though I've been riding still a fair amount and working out on the trainer, and had to drop my FTP on the trainer just because I wasn't able to finish some of these intervals that I was doing. So I don't know what the issue is.
Well, it's called cycles, right? So
Yeah,
I mean,
I think I'm going through a cycle.
yeah, I have that. I'm having that at the moment. It's just I basically now am doing way less than I normally do, but it's just going to do it for a month. I got a couple 5Ks I'm going to run, and cycling wise, going to ride. I did a 100-miler Saturday, but in general, I ride like for an hour, 2 or 3 times a week,
Yeah.
and just take it
I'm
easy.
I'm doing a 100-miler this coming Sunday. I think I should be okay, but I just haven't felt as strong, and really, I don't know, maybe even haven't felt as motivated as just because I've got nothing to look forward to for the next few months, I guess.
Well, keep in mind, so the mental part is when you don't feel as good as you think you should feel, and you don't have a motivation of something coming, those things all make you feel less motivated anyway, right? Because you're feeling tired and you're not motivated, you got nothing else coming. Those all add up to like, and it's like, just get the ride in. It's still work, and maybe you tone it back. We'll get into a minute on training, but I'm becoming a big proponent of people need to ride more zone 1. Because I see it in my life, and I'll go over that in a minute, because that's one of the topics is training.
All right.
And it may be more me, but I'll go over that. But
yeah, I would say take a Vespa tomorrow, do a good warm up, and hit some OFM intervals to kind of give yourself that adaptive stress, and give a couple of days of recovery before you do your 100. And then
Well, I did the OFM intervals today, and I wasn't able to make it through all the way. My legs just wouldn't do it.
Then
so I stopped at number 16. I stopped at number 16.
are you doing them on erg mode?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I drop your FTP so this sort of gets into the topic, but I guess I'm going ahead. I don't have to ask Peter about his rides. But one of the topics was training, and I've been doing a bunch of reading, and some of this stuff I've always known, but a little backstory is in riding. I've never really had to think about training, because some of you guys might have heard of the what do they call it in Tucson, the shootout. So
I've heard of it.
Pretty big ride, fast. Well, can't say that I helped develop it with anyone, but I was back in the 1980 when we started doing that. And I didn't have to do workouts because it was a workout, and we did it like 3 times a week. So some days it was a long, everyone just hammers. Some days everyone jumped off the front because we had competing teams. And other times it was an easy ride with hard slams up the hill. So I've never had to think about intervals because we did them in the course of a ride on a regular basis. So unfortunately, I settled into the high zone 2 for almost everything. So I just ride just hard enough that it's hard, but I'm not getting the high stress part that you need for high intensity, but I'm burning out on the lower end. And so do you guys know what polarized training is?
How about Kenyan training for us runners?
Sort of like Kenyan training, but there's the 2 big, I'm going to say if there's 3 actually, if you throw in what they call sweet spot, which is a trainer road thing, but you basically have polarization and periodization. They're pretty similar in the middle. So there's a guy named Steven Seiler who lives in Norway. He's an American. He's from Texas. So it's actually pretty funny when they talk about him because, he lives in Norway. He's at a university there, works with the Norwegian guys, but he's got a good old Texas accent. So he's a pretty big proponent of polarization, which says you do way more zone 1, low zone 2, and then you do 80% that way, and you do 20% high workouts, so high intensity intervals. You don't do a lot of the lower zone 2, mid zone 2 as much. And if you do, that's part of the 20%. Whereas periodization will have you do some zone 1, then you have a period of zone 2, and then you do some zone 3. And if you're like me, you live in the zone 2 range, which is what Seiler found out is when you actually look at people's training, we all gravitate to a certain speed and effort that we like to be at. And so for me, it's sort of semi-hammering. And what it does is it burns you out. And so when you do the 80-20 of polarization, you're forcing yourself to go in zone 1, which is some percentage of your heart rate. I'll get to something else about that in a minute. But then when you do intervals, they're hard. They're zone above, so there's zone 3, but there's zone 4. If you use a 5 zone, there's zone 4 and 5. But you're doing hard ones. And so you're getting that stress, which is sort of what 2060s are, or, you know, the riding ones, if we do 45, whatevers. But you're getting that higher output than hammering along at 230, 240 watts for 2 hours. Feels like a really good workout, but the problem is you're not getting the high stress, so you don't get that advantage, but you're also burning the candle at the other end. And so when you get done, you're actually you're not getting the rest even in your workouts. And so I'm going to go to the periodization mainly because if I play the cards right, it'll help me keep out of that zone 2 problem.
So help me understand what you just said, Tony, because what I'm thinking of this is like the OFM intervals are just exactly for that. Like,
yeah, that sort of thing.
Just enough.
But you might do little longer ones. You
Right.
might do shorter, but the idea is that's 20% of your effort. So time is a good effort.
Well, I would say that 20% is broken down into 10%, say upper zone 2, low zone 3, and then that other 5% is like solid zone 3, and then the last 5% is reserved for like those intervals where you're
Sure.
tapping on.
It can be. I don't think he breaks it down that minutely in the 20%, but saying the basic principle is, though, when you're going easy, you go easy. On your hard days, you go hard. You don't go
so easy. You go so easy, you think you're lollygagging.
Yeah, well, that's one of his training, which I thought was interesting, and I need to work on this because I know my runs, and I noticed this the other day when I got back to running, is when I run, the longer I go, I slowly watch my speed go, 850s, 830s, 820s, 810s, and that's how I run, but it's not good because 8-minute miles, when I'm looking at, marathon pace that I'd like to do at 7:30s, I'm running way too close to my.
You should be doing more like 9-minute.
Yes.
850.
Right.
But that's now because you're fat adapted, you can do that. Like carb dependent, it's hard to negative split if you're carb dependent.
Right. But it's still a little too fast. Even though I'm fat adapted, it's still not giving me the adaptations I want on that easy end. They're not quite easy enough. And so what I like about the polarization, it's polarized, 2 opposite ends, is it keeps me away from being too much in that middle where I'm not getting the benefit of one or the other. And so some people, it's okay. They don't do that, right? They go easy. And he even talks, I was reading Matt Fitzgerald's books, 80-20, which is sort of based on the idea. And he had talked to Seiler that they actually have a week to get used to riding slow or running slow. You go out and say, I'm going to run 930 miles, or I'm going to go out and I'm going to ride at 12, 13 miles an hour, just to get your body to know what it's doing that's slow. Because if you're like me, I tend to so you tell me go ride at 12 or 13 miles an hour, I'm going to go, what? I'm not going to get enough miles in. Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The idea is to get the time in, right? And go slower. It doesn't mean like on your long ride, Rob, if you go out and you ride 100 miler, that you could ride, let's say you ride 80% of that at zone 1, but you have hills that you hammer up as an interval, you can still have those interspersed over the time of that effort. So, but you don't hammer every hill like I did this past week. I hammered the hills and then I waited at the top for everyone. I just shut it down and cruised, and just, that was my workout. I got some good intervals. I think I had 30 seconds at like 560 watts, which for me is good. It's not Vanderpool. He does 30 seconds at 1200 watts. But you know what? I looked at it and was pretty happy. I got 31 seconds at like 560 watts. And so, but then that was it, right? I had a 40 second spot, then I took it easy. And so it's filtered into there. So, but the idea is that you do, again, when you're doing easy, you do easy. When you do hard, you do hard.
Well,
again, this is good for me.
This is why I call it disruptive periodization, because it's based on that thing. And I base it basically on, linear stuff, but also with some evolutionary biology thrown in there, because there's a researcher. He was at University of Arizona. He came from somewhere else, was at University of Arizona for 10 years, and then he's back at his alma mater. His name's David Rakeland, and he does a lot of he's an anthropologist, and he found that the still hunter-gatherers in Africa, they spend all day out there, and there's like 2.5 hours where it's more like they're jogging, and then they're like tempo for a little bit, and then they might be sprinting for a few seconds here. And it was like how I broke down that 20%. It's like most of the day, zone 1. And then,
so the other thing that's interesting in all this, and I'll show you something. I have a new gadget. So I'm not telling everyone to buy a gadget, but it's something I've been thinking of for a long time because I've looked at it, and I've heard a couple people talk about this, that like power is not the best thing to work to, right? So power is a result of something. So if you do intervals, there's a place for it, but the danger with, like you felt, Rob, is if, let's say your FTP is something and you do some percentage, but today you had stress in your life, you got up late, you didn't sleep well last night, and you still go do that power, that's not the same thing as being rested and putting out the same power, even though your workout's going to say, I did 2060s at 230 watts. It's not the same as if you do it on a day you feel good as when you feel bad.
Right. What Tony's saying is one day you might be getting training effect out of it. The other day you might be overtraining.
Right. And so, again, it's an output because it's a result of something, right? It's a result of your heart rate. It's a result of your breathing. It's a result of your stress in your life. There's so many things that can add up to power. I'm not saying power is bad, but when it's your only metrics to do things, it can fluctuate. I mean, I've done it. I've done rides where, oh, look, I averaged 200 watts. And I'm going, wow, that didn't feel like much at all today. And other days where 200, it feels like, my gosh, I was putting out like a ton. And some of that's, if I think back, is I didn't sleep good last night and I did this. And so in listening to Steven Seiler, and I didn't know he was actually part of this gadget I've got. He helped develop it, but heart rate has some issues as well, right? Because there's variations in your heart rate. Like I have a slow heart rate. Some people have a faster heart rate. Again, stress affects your heart rate if you go into a workout. But he was looking at breathing, and Vespa Leasebike's been using this breathing strap. That it's ventilation, because ventilation actually drives a lot, right? You got to get oxygen into your blood. You got to get oxygen into your system. And so
you got to get the CO2 out.
Yeah, so I got this. You probably can't see it. It's a time wear strap. And what it is, I needed a new heart rate monitor anyway, so I had to buy one. So I got this. It's got a thing on the back that measures your breathing in two ways. It's measures your something through the skin when it takes your breathing, but it also stretches. So it's like tidal volume. And then they have a link between the two. I'm going to see what it does, but it's pretty interesting looking at some of the data on Vespa Leasebikes used it, because I know with me, my breathing tells me more in an interval or climbing. It tells me way more than my heart rate. I've had times when I can't get a breath in and my heart rate's fine. And I'm like, if I was going to my heart rate, I'd probably pass out because I can't get any oxygen in. And so the idea with the ventilation is, and all that plays when the air you come in plays into all your functions in your body, right? It plays such a huge deal. And so anyway, I'm going to give it a try. And you basically do the same thing. It's you do some VO2 test, or you do a max test to get your breathing compared to your max heart rate, and they do some extrapolation. But I thought it was interesting because to me, I'd read some other things, you know, how much breathing is important. And I noticed with me, that's the first thing I know when I got a problem is I'm starting to gasp.
And I can corroborate that anecdotally, because when I'm pacing somebody in an ultra, that's one of the things I'm watching for, because when their breathing rate goes up, but their pace doesn't do much of anything,
right,
I get them walking immediately.
Right. And so I think it's got some merit to it, right? Is it the only thing to use? Probably not. But when you put all those things to look at it after the fact, but just to give you, even if it helps me do the slow better. I mean, that's my key one, trying to get the slow part better, because I don't have a problem working out hard. I need to figure out how to work out easier when I'm doing that. And so, but it's called time wear,
TYME.
Yeah, TYME wear.
I see that it's $299. Is that what you paid, or did you get a deal?
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you go to get a heart rate monitor, they're like $120 for a good one.
Yeah.
$100, and it does your cadence. It does a bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's got other sensors in it. I'm not telling anyone to go buy one, but since I needed one, I figured, hey, for a little extra, let's try. I'll be a guinea pig.
Yeah, you need to be the guinea pig right now. But I would say, once again, everybody, as I keep hammering along, the data corroborates the experience. It doesn't drive it. Remember that. And Tony's great about that, because when he was wearing a CGM, he was paying attention to what it was doing. He wasn't letting it dictate what he did. And so
I have exercise-induced asthma somewhat, so it may help in that, trying to control when that's coming on to get an idea what feels. Because when that hits, it's all over. I mean, it comes back pretty quick. I can get some deep breaths and get it controlled, but if you're in a bike race and I get hit with a spell of that at the wrong time, it's all over. They just go down the road and I say bye, see you later. I've had it happen in running races too, where it's just like.
And if you're one of those that just is a numbers junkie and knows you have that addiction to all these devices, I'd say let's let Tony get a little bit of data, and then let's talk about it, because part of our goal is to get you into that subconscious zone of like, bring it on, and you know what to do because they're based on your own feedback. I mean, I'm not saying we don't dump all these devices, because they really helped us develop good things, but at the end of the day, you got to have some sense of agency.
Yeah, the one thing I find that even on RPE that gives me some problems is if I feel good and it's not a day I should be going hard, I tend to go hard because I feel good. But that doesn't mean I should be going hard. Just because I feel really good that day and I felt good yesterday, because that's in the past, I've always done really well on 2 to 3 hard days in a row, and then I take 3 to 4 days off. And that doesn't work as well as old as I am, because it's not enough. But I still had days that I feel good. The problem is I do 2 or 3 days of that, and then I'm toast, or I get sick, or something else happens. So anyway, it's just I'm putting that with the polarization, trying to control the middle ground, where I think I spend too much time.
So you're saying that from the polarized standpoint, stay out of the zone 3 and sweet spot stuff.
It's less of the sweet spot.
Yeah, either go real easy or go real hard.
Yeah, the zone numbers are hard to say, because one of the things I found interesting in Norway is they've all decided on this. Pretty much everybody that works together in the national system, and pretty much all the Norwegians use the same zones. They may do different things in them, but they've all agreed on what zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is. Yeah. And they even have 6, 7, and 8. I'm not going there. It's it don't matter what your heart rate is, right? That's the go out and run 100 meters as fast as you can, or do a 200-meter sprint on your bike sort of thing. Stuff that we don't really need. And only some of the guys do that. But the idea is, for me, is to keep me out of that zone where you're going just hard enough that you're getting okay. So I'm fit, but I'm not getting the adaptations and the benefit of the faster stuff.
I will say that there is a time and a place for it. What Tony's saying is you don't want to sit in that zone all the time, Rob. There is a time when that workout.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying I'm not going to do a workout that's a tempo in high zone 2. That counts as part of the 20%. Yeah. I just don't want to go ride in zone 2 because I know I'll slide up to the top end of that way too easy. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to plan on being at the top end, and that's the workout, right? And that counts as part of the 20%. It doesn't count as an easy day. Because if you look at a lot of Trainer Road and some of those guys, they all talk about zone 2 as almost being easy, and they don't even comprehend doing zone 1.
Yep. Well,
I mean, they throw out zone 1 as junk miles.
It's part of that carbohydrate dependent and time crunch professional mindset where you only got a certain amount of time, so you need to get as much in as you can. And it's like, I would rather see people take a nice warm up to the switch and then do some really disruptive, what Tony's calling periodized, but disruptive workouts to really give you that sharp adaptive stress with full recoveries on the off intervals.
Okay. So that's sort of where I'm at. And I'm not saying that periodization is bad. I'm just saying, for me, I'm going to play with the polarization, because the more I've looked into it, the more it makes really good sense. It fits a lot with what we're doing. It's roughly what the Norwegian guys are doing anyway, right? When they go easy, it's still faster than me and you because they're fitter, but it's easy. And when they go hard, they go hard. I mean, the Ingebrigtsens in running I don't tell anyone to do this. You got to be in pretty good shape, but they do double threshold days. But that day is followed by super easy days for 1 or 2.
Those are full stop recovery days.
Yeah, so they're doing a double threshold, and you know what? I can tell you they work. I've done them. I didn't know they were called that, but I used to do double workouts where you ran it really hard in the morning and then you do it intervals in the evening, and it works. The trick is you got to get enough rest, because if you not careful, they will put you way over the edge. And so I'm going to play with that. I'm going to write a post on it and stuff once I start doing it. The other one I thought was interesting, and I know of one other person that talked about 10-day cycles, but Seiler brought up, and I think this is pretty wise, because I run and ride, I have a really hard time figuring out how to fit it all in. And his thing is, why don't you just use a 14-day cycle? Why do you need a 7-day cycle? So if you do a 14-day cycle, you could ride, you've got a bigger window to fit the things in you need, especially for, like, he was talking about some of the Norwegian triathletes use a 14-day cycle.
Well, and this is why we get 2 to 3 week training blocks in our.
Right. But the idea is, don't look at it as, my brain looks at the week, right? And I got a week and I want to put in 120 miles riding, and I want to put in 25 miles running, and I need a weight workout in there. Instead of looking at it that way, look at it in a bigger picture. So maybe one of those 4 sets in the 14, I'm riding more, and then I'm running more at the other part. But look at it as a bigger section, so you're not trying to cram it all into 7 days. It's all going to fit into 7 days, but maybe the first 7 days is a little more running and some weight for me. Little running and some weightlifting and a ride, and the next 7 is more riding and less running and whatever. But then look at it as a 14-day section, and it gives you the same things, but it's easier to look at it in a bigger block. I think it made some sense. I've thought of it. The one I read was on a 10-day cycle, and if you're like me, 10-day cycles don't work, because if you want a long run, it's usually got to be on a weekend or a long ride. And this way you can fit that in a 14-day cycle. I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, again, it's not mind-blowing stuff. I mean, 14 days, duh. I mean, it's a dumb moment, right? And that's basically how we put it in. It was an interview from a while back. I thought it was pretty funny because it was sort of, so why do you use 7 days? Why don't you use 14? And triathlons, it would seem, Mike, I mean, I don't know how they do it, but it would fit for triathlons, which was his point, when you're trying to fit in running and riding and swimming. And if you work, how do you, it's hard to fit all that in a week.
Some of it, excuse me, some of it I use a week strong formula. So let's say that somebody's a lousy swimmer. The race is over if they're a lousy swimmer.
Yep.
And they can't improve. So I will put in extra swim time or maybe more intensity in swim than I would if everything else is equal. So I try to focus on weak, strong, and then let the days kind of fall where they might.
And I think that was part of what he talked about was just that, right? You can pick if you look at it in a bigger stretch, you can look at where you need to work on. And you're right, swimming, that's the reason I don't do, well, it's not the reason I don't do triathlons. It's lots of reasons, but it's the reason I never got into them, because I can't swim. I don't have the time to learn to swim, and I don't feel like getting in the water and coming out the day after I started the race. And being so far behind that I couldn't do anything if I wanted. And I mean, it's just not, my brain doesn't want to deal with that.
Yeah, another 80-20 tip I'll give you, Roberto, is don't overthink it. 80-20. If you're getting 80% of the workout in and 20% you miss, don't beat up on yourself. Just relax about the diet, relax about it. You got the concept, it's just constant little tweaking and just, be like a child. Like a child, something doesn't work, they don't have any guilt or shame or overthink it. They just go on to the next thing, right? And what does work, and they'll figure it out. And so,
and keep in mind, the 80-20 is a guide. If you do 70% one week and 30, or you do 90 and 10, that's not the point. The whole 80-20 just simply comes from looking at how the Kenyans ran, the Norwegians ran, and they looked at these top performers, and they all spent from 70 to 80% of their time going slow, and the rest of the time going fast. So it was both ends of the spectrum. Thus, again, polarization. But it's just looking at that. So there's no magic number. It just, the 80 is a number. It's just a nice round number. And if it's 70% and 30. I think you do have to be careful on if you're doing really hard work. I think you don't want to do too much there, because you got to make sure you get enough rest in there, right? We're not young guys, and that's the danger with so one danger in this for older guys is you do have to know your body pretty well, because when you're going really hard, you need to know what you're doing. You need to make sure you're getting enough rest after. Huh?
You break easier than young guys.
So you got to be, you have to use some wisdom in it, right? Because all these young guys can go out and do it, and they get a little twinge here or there. Their body's going to heal overnight. And if you're like me, it takes 2 weeks after you twist something.
Oh, God,
zone 1, zone 2, low zone 2, it feels like you're not getting a workout.
Yep.
Do you go longer?
You do go longer. I was just going to bring that up. I think Tim can speak to this pretty clearly, because, on his journey, when he was over 300 pounds, it started just getting around the block, right? That was a big workout. But then, like I said, once you get to that golden window of 2 to 3 hours, there's some real big physiological changes. Just having the ability to start walking 2 to 3 hours like Tim did in his beginning, to where he moved up to being able to ride a bike 2 or 3 hours without bonking. And then from there, the whole world opens up.
I will say, though, if you're going slow and you some reason that week you can't get out for 3 hours, go slow for 1 hour. Don't just not do it. Oh, it's slow. This is a slow day. I only got an hour. Go slow for an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. But you want to find that time at least once every 2 weeks to push out that big, long aerobic workout.
Right. And that's why, again, to me, the 14 works good really well, because in that 2 weeks you can fit in a long run. You don't have to say, oh, every Saturday I got to put in a long run, because
well, I like to see people get to the point where they do put in a long effort every weekend, but every other week they're kind of pushing it out.
Yeah, it's just depending on your work schedule and family life and things that go on. It's like in the bigger window, you can fit things in easier and go, okay, this week I got to do family stuff, but look, this is my week where I'm going to do the long run or the long ride, and it will feel easy. And I guarantee you, I didn't feel when I rode this Saturday. It felt really well. It was a little faster than it should have been because everyone was riding a little bit hard, but I just drafted. But it's hard to get yourself to go slow sometimes.
Hey Tim, why don't you comment on your journey when you started losing the weight and getting going, how that went? Because I think there's important nuggets in that, because you know you came from a pretty extreme situation.
Yeah, you were breaking up here. You were talking to me.
Yeah. I would like you to kind of chime in on what we're saying about the long efforts, because you started out. You said I remember when I interviewed you. You said just getting around the block was a big effort, and then you just built upon that. But you got yourself to a point where all of a sudden your metabolism kicked in the way it was, and you were able to just go long, but it wasn't like a huge effort because you still had the excess weight to lose.
Yeah, when I first started walking, as before I started riding, just around the block once or twice, and we had a short grade, maybe a 5% grade, 6%, 100 yards long. It would kill me going up it. And I'd be sitting there leaning against the telephone pole, just going nuts. And then I finally worked my way up to doing a mile every day. And then once my plantar fasciitis kicked in real bad, I was doing 14 to 15 miles a day of walking and getting it done just in a few hours.
Wow.
And
that was
my plantars got so bad.
But that was getting the weight off, right?
Pardon?
That was getting the weight off.
Yeah, I got down some just through the walking and that, but when I started riding the bike, I was still 300 pounds. But that was the first 30 pounds, and once it did start coming off, it made it a lot easier. And then that's when I started cycling, and again, it started off. It was like starting from ground zero, riding the bike around the block, different muscles, different way of doing stuff. And it took quite a while before I built up to where I was doing 10 miles. But once I got on the road though and left the bike trail, getting on the road, the miles I wanted to put in, say if I wanted to do 20 miles that day, I rode 20 miles in one direction. That way I had to ride back too. And that's really what started building me up to the mileage. The first time I did 62 miles was one of those. I'm just going to ride down I forget where it was now. It was about a 30-mile trip, maybe not quite. And got down there and says, now I got to get home. I called my wife. I said, can you come and get me? I'm working. I can't get off. So I had to ride home. And that became a thing.
And there was some sort of huge physiological change because you started shedding the weight.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, when I changed my diet along with it, it seems like the weight was. There'd be days, especially once I started fat adaptation. That really changed things. Then I got in with Vespa. There was days when I was lost 4 or 5 pounds in a hot summer day, with between sweat and the weight. Weigh again in the morning, and I was still right there in the same spot. So, but also the more I got into those long rides, and I'm hearing stuff from Tony tonight that I wish I'd have known then, because I was comfortable in those, zone 2, mid zone 2s, and I thought I was getting more benefit out of it. And
well, you get benefit. Don't get me wrong. You get
you
benefit,
get benefit out of it,
but you
not
don't get the
high-end
maximum.
benefit.
Yeah, you don't get the maximum benefit, and you're not getting the benefit of the low end, right? That's the danger.
This is what I needed 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, I've known. So here's my problem. I've known this stuff for a long time. My brain just likes to go at that. It's so used to always hammering everything. It's just getting the, and as you get older, you got to change that, right? I mean, you can't do that when you're younger.
Well,
Probably not bored, you can do more hard workouts.
The biggest change, though, that I had in cycling that really seemed to start pulling weight off, along with OFM and starting to sleep better and things, was when I started hitting the hills. I used to go hill hunting, and that's
well, yeah. So hills give you that. It takes more energy, right? There's nothing you can do on a hill. You can't unless you walk. I mean, it's like you go up, you're going to put that energy out. I was reading something on someone. I know they put it on to be good, but it's like, if you want to lose weight, ride a bike. There's some truth to that, but you can ride the bike, and if you don't ride long enough or with the right effort, you don't lose a lot of weight on a bike. You'd be better off walking, to me, because you got gears, right? So you can change those gears, you can go easier, and so you need to go longer to burn calories. So
I had a friend tell me the hills are your friends. And every time I'd get in the middle of a hill, I'd cuss him out. I said, "These aren't friends." But I climbed Airport Hill, which is a mile and a quarter long, about a 10% grade. The first time I went up it took me an hour and 15 minutes with about 20 stops going up that hill. Now, I go up it and 15 minutes and nonstop right up the hill. And you're not pushing hard. But I mean, the hills just really added the strength. Yeah. Well, my legs changed, he said, when I started climbing the hills.
So keep in mind, that's the same thing for running. That's the key with hills are, I don't do enough, but I do them in the middle of my run, because every run I do goes up a 200-foot hill to get away from my house. But that's the key. Running's the same thing. You get hills, that's a strength workout. No matter how fast you go, you're going to get a strength workout.
Well, I know when I was on keto, I never had the full energy to go up the hills and not feel so exhausted at the top that I didn't have to stop and take a break. Once I'd made the switch and started following OFM, I'd go up a hill and then just keep on going. I mean, I'd ride up through 3,000-4,000 feet of climbing in the day, and I still wasn't done as far as energy.
Yep.
So
good.
A question I have is, if you have limited time, is the 80-20 still a good idea, or can you up the intensity because you don't have the time? I mean, I know in an ideal world.
So they asked Seiler that question, like if someone's physically only got, say, 6 hours, he was leaning more towards the periodization, but you still got to get the rest in. So I think you could still do it. Your rest may be just that you're not riding that day.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you're getting rest. So you don't rest just when you're riding. You can be resting when you're resting. So if you only got 5 hours in, get your warm up in, do your hard workout, and your rest may be just not doing anything that day. If that's your schedule, right? Other than work or whatever that is.
Or maybe a walk.
Or a walk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you can still do it. You just have to be more creative. But the key then is, if you're looking at your 80-20 as your workouts, you're going to need to factor in your rest sort of as part of that. Like if you walk, call that a workout. If you're just playing with your grandkids for an hour, that's a workout. But it's the zone 1 workout. And I think you end up getting closer, right? That's going to be part of your 80%.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to think about it.
Because if you just try to do 5 hours in 80-20, you're not going to get much of anything. You're going to spend, but if you take the hard part and do the hard part that you need to do, and then the 80% comes out of what's left in your week. It might be one ride, a walk with your wife, play with your grandkids, go out and run errands for the day. But keep in your mind that those are still moving activities that are easy, and therefore your rest activity.
Yeah, that makes
At least
sense.
that's how I see it.
I agree. And that's a lot of
I
times what I'll do with clients is I'll say, okay, can you play with your grandkids or your kids and make that part of your workout or your recovery or walk your dog? And I remember early on in this, when I was coaching Karen Spohr, who was a top ultra runner, she was like constantly comparing herself to what the other elites were doing in terms of mileage. And I said, Karen, you're a full-time massage therapist. You got 40 hours of physical activity. When I got her to understand that and reduce her training, her performance and her injuries just disappeared. Her performance went through the roof, her injuries disappeared. So, you got to count any physical effort as part of that matrix, and then look for places where you can get downtime, not just your sleep time, but downtime.
Right. And I think if you look at it in a 14-week cycle, I was just thinking of this, that 80, if you only have 5 hours a week, that becomes 10 hours. Then it's easier to figure that out over the 14 days. Right? You get your easy, you might have more easy stuff in the 1 week and then filter in a couple hard ones, but now you're looking at a 10-hour window. Let's just say that is it. You get 5 hours a week is all you got. So look at it as a 10-hour block over 2 weeks and figure out what your hard days are and your easy days.
So Landon, because you're an individual, and I know you got your wife's got dementia. Is that part of the time crunch?
Well, it's not dementia, but it's a brain disease that affects her balance and speech. Interesting thing is she knows me, she understands me, but she has a really hard time talking that I can understand her. So that's a level of stress that I know plays into the whole thing. But taking her for walks can be good, therapeutic, and exercise at the same time.
I think that's part of it, right? I would count that as your easy workout.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're moving, you get the blood going. It's good rest, right? It's a good rest from hammering your legs on a hard workout.
Right.
And so you just get a walk in. I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, and you get to spend time with her, and those are the things you need to look at. Innovative ways that work in the context that are doable in the context of your life and your situation. Keep in mind it's not static, it's dynamic, right? And so things will be changing, and you just got to constantly tweak it. But you have the agency. We're here to help you to bounce stuff off of. But it's that's the thing, is look for those opportunities. And I've got to dig into it, but there's a big study that just came out of the UK about longevity, and I'll share it with you guys right now. But the interesting thing for me is the people who were doing what they considered intense exercise, which is for us zone 1, low zone 2, that had a big payoff in terms of longevity. The lower stuff like easy walking and all that, it had a benefit, but it wasn't nearly as great as the intense exercise. And once again, intense exercise is what we consider zone 1, low zone 2. So, what you're doing, say doing walks and stuff like that, or cleaning the yard or cleaning the house, it all counts, and you can put that as down to recovery on a metabolic level. You're moving some blood, yeah, it would be ideal to do low zone 1, but you can't do that, but you're still moving, you're not sitting. You're mentally active and engaged. That's going to have a huge effect on expediting recovery, because you're moving blood, you're staying hormonally balanced. And the other thing about just moving around, this is more salient in women for some reason. I've seen observationally, but just the light moving around between walking and, say, low zone 1, it's signaling an extra energy demand. And when you're metabolically fit, that really helps to attenuate hunger signals, because that signal saying, oh, I got to release fat to power the extra energy. You're not in that pure sedentary thing, which is, being sedentary is a kiss of death. So, I think like walking with your wife, that's your recovery workout. Tim, doing what you're doing, that's probably rates in the zone 1, zone 2, low zone 2, and probably with some, zone 2, zone 3 efforts here and there.
You're muted, Tim.
Let me unmute him.
I don't.
There we go.
I couldn't.
There you go.
Lumberyard is, the hardware store is about a mile away. The lumberyard's half a mile. So the lumber I've been needing, I go down there, pick it up, and carry it home. And
Oh man, you're
includes my sheets of plywood.
Yeah, but when you go to the lumber store, don't you get bored?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
But I had a full sheet to the wind.
Yeah.
I had a full sheet to the wind
There you
the other
go.
day.
And you can do planks and everything there.
Grandpa joke.
Yeah.
okay.
Grandpa joke.
I nailed it too.
Anyway,
Okay. Yeah, but that's good. Great functional workout. So
Oh, it's uphill. I got a downhill walk, but my hill to get up, I haven't even been able to cycle up our driveway because it's so steep. I sit there and I spin out on it. And it's a 12% to 15% hill going up through to up our house. I mean, not the driveway itself, but just getting up our hill on the avenue.
yeah.
And it's short, but it's carrying that wood up there. It gets challenging.
good.
The guy felt bad for me one day, and he said, "I'll throw it in my pickup truck and haul it up for you." And he did, but it was a bad day that day.
So there you go.
Anyone else have any questions or anything? That was the main one I was going to cover tonight.
Another question you mentioned several times about the OFM intervals. I'm not sure I know what that is.
So they're basically like short. So I can't remember. Rob's done them. It's been a while since I've done them. But they 45, 60. What did he call them? What you got to you're muted. You're muted.
It's 45 seconds at a high power. I think it's like 150%.
Yeah, 135 to 150% of your FTP, just for lack of a number.
And then it's 2.5 minutes at about 50% of your FTP.
And so basically what you do is you don't jump and sprint it. You build into it over like 2 to 3 seconds. Then you hold that for the 45, and then you get a good rest. So you're fully recovered. And then you go do that for like 15 times. In running, we do 20-60s where you basically roll into a 20-second sprint and then you rest for 60 seconds. So I just sort of took the numbers and doubled them roughly for riding, because that's sort of the equivalent when you do riding to running and stuff. So yeah, just do 45s on Zwift. I can send you the Zwift workout if you want. I got a ZWO file. You can just, if you do Zwift.
I tried Swift and I just didn't enjoy
That's
it. That
okay.
much,
You can
so
do them on the road. It's just
yeah.
you can set up your Wahoo with it. Even or whatever you got. I don't know if you got a Garmin or a Wahoo.
Yeah, Wahoo.
Yeah, you can program a workout, and I haven't done workouts on mine, but I think it beeps. And basically, you're just listening for the beep, right? Because when you hear a beep, you go into, you take 2 to 3 seconds to build into it, and then hold it, and then totally go down to 50% of your FTP roughly or less. It's no big deal. It's just to get a good full rest. And then you do that like 15 times.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
you
I
can
can do that in the trainer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can take 5 to 7 seconds if you want to roll into it. It's just you want to roll into it so your body can adjust and give it the appropriate energy substrate. And
then hold it. And if you start tailoring off, that's okay.
Yeah.
If you start tapering at the end, don't worry about it. You're just going hard. It's not like kill yourself so that you hold that. Let's throw out a number. Say it's 300. And you get into 35 seconds and you're having a hard time holding it. That's fine. It'll taper off, but you've done that same effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a good point, Tony. So say, Landon, you're having a rough day. If it's only 30 or 35 seconds, just adjust it to that.
And if you can only do 10, only do 10, because it's not that worthwhile a workout if you suddenly can't put out 200 watts and you're supposed to do 300. I mean, that is the hard part for most people. I know it is for me to call a workout off, but it's actually rather smart because at some point you're going to do more damage than good if you're just like flailing around trying to get that number and spewing all over the place.
It goes back to what Tony was saying earlier about the polarization. It's like power is an end result, and it's like if you're stressed on that day and you can only hold it for 30 seconds versus 40 or 45, that needs to be where you need to be. You just want to get that really sharp, acute adaptive stress and then clear out all that CO2, get the oxygen back in so that you're minimizing that lactate accumulation and damage to your cells, but you're getting that full adaptive stress.
Okay.
Which is sort of what the Norwegian method, all those guys, the triathletes and the runners, that's part of their thing. They're going faster. I'm not saying they're going fast and they're doing mile repeats at times, but the idea is they're still not overcooking it, right? They're not going, Jacob Ingebrigtsen runs, 340 something mile. He's not doing his intervals at 340, but he's doing them at some very high level, but he's not going so hard that he's damaging himself. But he does.
See, the thing is we're all older. So Ingebrigtsen doing 340 miles, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, 340 miles. I'm doing 800s in 3 minutes.
No. But what I'm saying is they're doing like a percentage that's lower. So we got to keep in mind. That's the beauty of the workout is they're going very hard, but they're not going. So if you do it like I grew up doing, you ran pretty much every interval as hard as you could. If you did 12 quarters, you ran 12 quarters and the coach said, if you're not barfing at the end or whatever, you're not going hard enough. Well, all you do is damage. So they're going hard, but they're not going that kind of hard.
And that's the whole beauty of lactate training. We're just approaching it from the other end, and they're watching their lactate. It's like
we're trying to do it intuitively because it's really hard to do lactate testing. Even if it's a good protocol, even the guys, most people don't do it because it's
they have teams of people on the track. When the Ingebrigtsens are training, they got 3 or 4 people there with lactate meters ready to poke up and go and.
But I would say that most of those guys are not even doing, other than the top guys, the other ones may do it once, get that number. But there's good reference numbers if you look it up that you can sort of figure out based on heart rate roughly what that sort of lactate level is, where the first break and the second break, I think it's like VT1 and 2, VL1 and 2 or something. You can sort of guess those. But the idea is you're just going hard, but you're getting the rest.
They're watching their lactate, so they're going hard, but they're not going too hard.
Right. Because if you get the lactate too high, rest ain't going to matter. You're done for the day.
Over, you're all of a sudden creating all this damage that takes a long time to recover from.
Which, by the way, is why they do double threshold workouts, is instead of doing, let's say they were doing 20 quarters for that day, they would maybe break it. Well, let's say they're doing 15. They might break it up 10 in the morning and 10 in the afternoon. So they do a few more and they're doing them fast, but they're breaking them up so they don't get that damage of trying to go out. The old days, we would just do 20 quarters and be toasted the next day.
I'm going to get off on a tangent about lactate. some interesting papers, and this is having to do with normal people. There's been a real drop in VO2 max capacity and lactate. And what they're finding, and this is germane to what we're talking about with the whole high carb stuff, is what they're seeing is there's a rise in D-lactate and not L-lactate. Okay, and L-lactate is produced by muscle glycolysis. D-lactate is produced in the gut. And what they're thinking is there's a lot of gut dysbiosis, and especially the big thing is because of the jab, because it kills off your bifidus bacteria in your gut. The mRNA vaccine, COVID actually puts pressure on it too, but the mRNA vaccines, if you get a real mRNA vaccine that's live and active, it absolutely wipes out your bifidus. And then all of a sudden your D-lactate goes through the roof. So I'm thinking from this research, I've got to do my thinking's evolving. You know, I know that what I've talked about burning down the rainforest in terms of your epithelium and your biome, you add to that the shifts that high carb fueling does. I think a lot of these athletes like Lionel Sanders, Courtney Dauwalter, and a lot of the people I've trained and worked with in the past, I mean, Mike, you've seen it, you've seen them come and go. They hit this threshold where they've damaged their epithelium and their biome so much, but also they've shifted that biome towards sugar-loving bacteria, and they hit this threshold where all of a sudden they're producing all this lactate, D-lactate in their gut, which shuts them down, which is going to cause you to shut down too. So a little bit more of the geeky stuff, I know, but it's interest. This research has really got me thinking about why these people are cratering when they get to a certain point in their career, that they hit this dysbiosis. That I think that's another thing that's kicking in, is the gut dysbiosis.
So all of this, Landon, is saying that that's what those 45, 230 whatevers is, to give you a hard workout, but not build up the lactate, which is, again, that's the Norwegian thing. And when I first read about it and looked into it, I'm like, well, that's pretty much what we do. We just don't have the lactate testing. And, you know, I've tried it. I've got a lactate meter, but man, I have only used it a few times, because it's, even on the bike, on a trainer, it's still a mess, man. I had blood splats everywhere from poking my fingers, and they still haven't, they're still trying. There's a company that came out with a continuous lactate monitor, but it ain't working because they keep disappearing. They still exist, but you hear about them and then it goes away because obviously it's not working. And that's a hard one to do, right? How are you going to pull a blood test? Yeah, it's just going to take, I just don't know that they can.
And I've got firsthand experience watching the infamous Dr. Ferrari do this, and he knew what he was doing, and he was able to do it really. I mean, and we were on the same hill at Rio Veggio outside of Bologna that Lance trained on, and he had a whole protocol for climbing these guys, and you know, the lactate method is definitely an accurate way to gauge your output and stuff.
Yes.
But it takes real professionals at that.
I mean, I did it on my bike, but you know, you poke your finger, but
the guy riding the bike or running on the track shouldn't be the one poking himself. It needs somebody who's got some practice at this, knows how to get those numbers quickly and send the runner or the bicyclist back on their way.
But what I can tell you is, if you look up there are people that you can get fairly close to figure out somewhat what that number is by heart rate or ventilation. You can get into a close area. I mean, it's not going to be exact as lactate. But again, the idea is you don't go till you blow up. So the old mindset was keep going as hard as you can, but don't die. That's sort of what it is, but you know, the coach wouldn't let you do that. Well, the idea is you need to be able to do all those sprints. You'll probably slow some near the end. You want to be able to do them at a maximum ability each time, but not so much that your lactate build up that you can't do the last ones. You want to try and get done with them all. You know, when I said if you got to stop, That's true, but make sure you're stopping because you know that you can't put out the numbers, not just because you're tired.
Yeah.
But, so that's a good workout. It gives you the sprint. It actually be a good workout for cyclocross because that's just a bunch of spurts, right? I mean,
Right.
You go around a corner, you're doing nothing. I'm not saying you're not doing anything, but you're going slow around a corner, and then you're darting out of it to get to the next straight. Then you got another corner, and then you got a little hill, and then you got a down. I get there's no real rest, but it is some ways there's a rest. It's just you got an active rest or something, but it's just a bunch of intervals the whole time.
Yeah.
And I take that just from watching, by the way. I don't do cyclocross, but I've watched plenty.
Oh, you can. Yeah, I mean, if you got any understanding of physiology and stuff, you can see with cyclocross what's happening. I mean, it's up and down like a yo-yo with the.
Well, then you add in bike handling, and there's things that aren't even part of that whole equation that are even in gravel racing. I catch that, man. It's like your whole body hurts when you get done in a hard gravel race because it's just, holding the bars, controlling the front end.
Yeah, it's just cyclocross compacts all that into a real tighter, shorter time frame.
Yep. Let's see what time.
Other things to be aware of. Just warning you guys, if you start riding with groups this winter, remember, Rob and Landon, I don't know if you guys ride with any groups, but remember to always look out for the one guy who's only a triathlete and never ridden in bikes. That's a constant reminder I get from people. Mike, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but I hear this from cyclists a lot that you get a triathlete, they don't know how to ride in a group.
They really don't. I mean, triathlon, they're so used to getting down in the aero bars and just hammering that if something comes up, and you would be surprised, like particularly at the larger Ironman races, they spend over an hour talking about bike handling skills, and some of the races, if it's a real technical course, they even offer ride-alongs to get people out there so that they understand, hey, there's sand in this corner. Don't go downhill into this corner. So it's a mess, though.
I think the bigger problem with the guys I know a few people that do triathlons. I think they're good bike handlers, but they are not ready for bike handling in a group where you might get your elbows bumped or you might touch a front wheel, which I get it. Most people don't know how to deal with that, right? I mean,
Exactly.
if you bump into someone, it's like you keep leaning on them, right? You don't jump away from them. You even out the weight, but it's like they don't do that, and that's the part that scares me. Not so much that they can't handle the bike, but it's one little bump in the road that they bump into somebody and they're off. And so,
well, it's when you're teaching open water swimming. That's why you have so many freakouts. Is if I'm teaching open water swimming, they're going to think they've been in a boxing match.
Oh, I know.
Finished with my open water swimming workout.
And Mike, I think you need to have them play water polo for a while, and then they'll be better at open water swimming. I've never played water polo, but I've watched the videos from underneath. Sort of X-rated at times when they start grabbing things, but.
Well, two of the absolute best open water swimmers that have ever come along. Do you have any idea who they are?
Ex-collegiate.
Dave Scott and Mark Allen. Dave Scott and Mark Allen. They were unbelievable open water swimmers. Why? They swam water polo at Davis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, water polo is crazy. Man.
Davis has a strong water polo team. They have a strong program there. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. All right, guys. Well, anything else we need to talk about?
If not, same time next month, I'll send out a reminder. I'll send out some links if you would like to the stuff, some of the videos with Seiler on polarized training.
That would be interesting.
Just, I think, let's put it this way. I'm not saying he's the be all know all, but one is I sort of like the way he talks, and he seems to be sort of down to earth, not like I know it all sort of guy when he's talking about it. And I think he just puts out the information, and a lot of it's just take the information and do what you need to do. He doesn't do a lot of do this workout and do this workout sort of thing. He's just looking at how and again, most of what he does is based on what the Norwegians are doing. And
It's working.
it's working. The other one that's interesting real quick on Norwegians, I don't know if you saw the Ironman Kona, but all the girls that dropped out are super skinny and look emaciated, but the girl that won didn't look emaciated.
I was going to say she's a big girl.
She's Norwegian. And you know what? It's the same reason with Johannes Abrahamsen, who gained weight. And the Norwegian guys are all pretty stocky, pretty built guys. They're not skinny little waifs of people.
Yeah, well, the guy who got third in his age group, it was warm. It was warm on Sunday, and he led through most of the half marathon. He was 19th on the swim out of the water in his age group. He was first on the bike. He obliterated everybody on the bike, and led half or 2/3 of the way to the marathon. Some skinny Argentinians slipped by him. I mean, the top five, I don't think there was a half hour separating all the top five.
Yeah. Anyway, just a side note that it's like, weight's important, but at some point power and the rest of it's important. And durability as defined in the old days, which meant ability to last.
Right, but if you look at the pictures I took of the podium, the awards yesterday, he's like twice as big as all the other four guys.
Yep.
So
anyway, guys, all good?
Yep.
Thank you.
All righty.
Take care.
It was fun.
yeah,
Bye.
good evening.
All right.
See y'all.
All right.